So starting with the complications of the fractures. These are the associated pathologies other than the loss of bone continuity. As you know that the discontinuity in the bone fragment is known as fracture, which either coexist or originate due to the fracture. Early diagnosis and aggressive treatment is necessary to minimize the disabilities and these kind of complications. So according to the definition, it is associated pathologies which occur with fractures. So fracture is divided into different categories. Let's discuss and see what are the categories. First is immediate. In immediate we have two types, systemic and local. And in systemic type we have hypovolemic shock, and in local we have injury to major vessels, muscles and tendons, joint, viscera. So let me tell you one thing, that if you are talking about immediate type of complication, so in immediate complication, as name suggests, you have a fracture, and when you had a fracture, just immediately after the fracture, what kind of complications you will have. Okay, so say for example you had a road traffic accident or any kind of fall, you broke your bone or you had a fracture. It may be your long bone, short bone, any kind of, or any part of your body. Associated areas and associated muscle, vessel, viscera, joints may be involved. Coming to the early complication, we had discussed immediate complication. Now early complication, it is again divided into systemic and local. First is hypovolemic shock, acute respiratory distress syndrome, fat embolism, DVT and pulmonary embolism, aseptic traumatic fever, septicemia, crush syndrome. And coming to local, infection and compartment syndrome. Moving to late complications related to imperfect union, delayed union, non-union, malunion, cross union. And other complications which is related to the fractures are avascular necrosis, shortening, joint stiffness, Sudeck's dystrophy, osteomyelitis, ischemic fracture or ischemic contracture, and myositis ossificans. And next one is osteoarthritis. So let's start with the hypovolemic shock. Commonest cause of death in fractures of major bones like pelvis or femur. So hypovolemic shock, as name suggests, it is shock occurring due to the reduced in volume of blood. When you had a fracture of pelvis or femur, you had a huge blood loss, and due to that your body will go into a hypovolemic shock, and your heartbeat and your pulse rate start falling down, and due to that this is the one of the major causes of death after fracture. Causes are external or internal hemorrhage, external compound fracture injuries, major vessels of the limb, internal injury to the body cavity, chest or pelvis. Internal is more difficult to diagnose because it is not possible to visualize inside the body, and for that you have to go for different kind of test. So if you have internal kind of injuries, it is a bit difficult to diagnose and manage the condition. In pelvis it is approximately 1.5 to 2 liters, and in femur 1 to 1.5 liter loss of blood is there, and it is a type of major hemorrhage which will lead to hypovolemic shock. So what prevention you can use or precautions you can use to stop this? Early stopping of the bleeding, avoiding shifting of the patients, just don't try to move the patient too much. For pelvis, temporary stabilization with external fixators, emergency angiography for embolism of bleeding vessels, for deeper vessels. Basically you don't have to move the patient too much, just try to stabilize patient. If you can see the patient is oozing or bleeding, just try to wrap something over there to stop the bleeding. And if internal kind of bleeding is there, you just go for angiography to see the internal bleedings and embolism. So coming to the management of hypovolemic shocks, start even before the cause is established. 2 large bore IV cannulas put inside the 2000 ml of crystalloids, followed by the colloid and blood if needed. Cut down if peripheral vasoconstriction is present. Localize the site of lesion. If in body cavities, perform a chest aspiration or diagnostic peritoneal lavage. Sometimes a simple X-ray is enough. Chest bleeding, ICDT, abdominal bleeding, laparotomy. What does it mean if you are having a hypovolemic shock and you had a roadside accident and you are having a internal bleeding, external bleeding? You just start treatment, start infusing a crystalloid and colloid inside the body. If vasoconstriction is there, just try to remove that constriction by cutting down and localize the site of the lesion. And if there is a internal bleeding and you need to lavage that part, just say for example in case of chest bleeding or abdominal bleeding, you may have to go to laparotomy or chest tubes for draining of bleeded blood or oozed blood inside your organs and cavities. So coming to acute respiratory distress syndrome. Respiratory distress following trauma is known as acute respiratory distress syndrome. Causes of ARDS is not definite. Hypothesized to be by release of inflammatory cells and proteinaceous fluid that accumulate in the alveolar space, leading to decrease in diffusing capacity and hypoxemia, and the microvasculature is disrupted. Onset is within 24 hours of injury. So this behind ARDS after the trauma is the pathology is not known actually, but it is hypothesized that inflammatory cells and proteinous fluids accumulate in the alveolar spaces, and this will lead to the reduce and decrease capacity of diffusing of that oxygen into the blood. So if your chest wall is disrupted or injured due to the accident, so near the around the chest walls cells may get damaged, and this will lead to the ARDS. Patient feel difficulty in breathing and all that. Features is tachypnea, fast breathing, labored breathing, painful breathing, feel pain in while doing breathing. X-ray of diffuse pulmonary infiltrates. You can see here that you can see these white patches. These are the basically in this proximal to your trachea. You can see that this is a diffuse pulmonary infiltrates. Arterial PO2 will be below 50. Management: 100% oxygen and assisted ventilation. Give patient pure oxygen and assisted ventilation. It takes up to 7 days to get your chest clear. If not detected early, death occur by multi-organ failure and cardiorespiratory failure. So it is important to detect if a patient is suffering from ARDS. Fat embolism. So I hope you know that what is embolism. So another type of embolism is fat embolism. It is a life-threatening complication of the fracture where fat globules occludes the small blood vessels. Embolism is the process of occlusion of blood vessels by any material which is brought to the site from elsewhere by the bloodstream. As you all know that it is a occlusion of blood vessels. So here it is by the fat globules which is obstructing your blood supply. Pathogenesis behind this fat embolism is injury to the large bones. Example: femur, release of fat globules from bone marrow to the bloodstream. When you had any kind of injury, that fat globules from your bone marrow move inside your bloodstream, and alternatively fat can also be released from the adipose tissue, and these fat globules obstruct your capillaries and blood vessels. And if this moves into a lung or heart, this will become a very huge complication. Fat is converted to free fatty acid, which induces toxic vasculitis, followed by thrombosis, which obstruct the microvasculature. So ultimately it obstructs your pulmonary artery or vein, or coronary artery or vein. So if these arteries will get blocked, you will find a serious problem. So clinical features. Common clinical features are petechial rashes on anterior neck, anterior axillary fold or conjunctiva. Cerebral type: drowsiness, restless. This clinical features are divided according to the which artery you are in which artery you have this type of that fat embolism. If you have a cerebral type artery which is get occluded by your fat globules, drowsiness, restlessness, disorientation or coma. If it is in pulmonary artery or vein, tachypnea, tachycardia and respiratory failure. I hope you know that what is tachypnea, tachycardia and respiratory failure. So diagnosis: retinal artery emboli, urine, fat globules. In urine you can see that fat globules. CXR: pulmonary infiltration and snowstorm appearance. These are the clinical features. Coming to the management: respiratory supports, heparinization, low molecular weight dextrin, corticosteroids, dextrose and alcohol infusion to emulsify fat. So if a patient is suffering from fat embolism, you should provide him a proper oxygen by respiratory support. It may be a supply of oxygen or ventilator support heparinization. As you know that heparin is a blood thinner, so you will give a patient heparin to dissolve your flat globules and unblock your artery. Low molecular weight dextrin may be given, corticosteroid, to reduce and suppress the inflammation. Dextrose and alcohol infusion to emulsify fat, which is necessary to unblock your arteries. So coming to deep vein thrombosis, it is a common complication originated after altered hemodynamics in lower limb and spinal cord. As we have discussed, a fat emboli or fat embolism. So deep vein thrombosis is another kind of your arteries and vein blockage after the fracture. So coming to the pathologies, I think you have studied pathology in your last semester or last semester. So you may heard about the virtuous striates, decreased flow rate of the blood, damage to the blood vessels, and hypercoagulability. So trauma lead to immobilization, and immobilization lead to venous stasis, and due to venous stasis you develop a thrombosis. These are the interrelated sequences which happen due to the or after trauma. Clinical features, here you can see that very shiny skin. Elderly and obese patients are at risk. Leg swelling, local redness, warmth, calf tenderness, pain in passive dorsiflexion, which is a positive Homan sign. Venography shows DVT. So an elderly and obese patient which is having a less mobility and having a more sedentary type of lifestyle are very much prone to develop this type of embolism. Leg swellings are there due to because DVT is more common in your legs. So local redness, warmth, shiny skin, calf tenderness, and positive Homan sign. Pain in passive dorsiflexion. If you will flex the patient foot passively, dorsiflex this foot, you will have a pain in your calf muscle. Venography is done to to see the blockage in veins. So sequel, the venous thrombosis can get dislodged and produce embolism elsewhere. If it is in pulmonary embolism, the condition is life-threatening. Embolism usually occurs within 4 to 5 days after the injury. A late complication of DVT is the post-phlebitic syndrome, which can manifest itself as edema, pain, discomfort, and skin problem. And these things we have discussed just in fat embolism. So other causes: compressions of the vein, physical trauma, cancer, infections, inflammatory diseases like stroke, heart failure, nephrotic syndrome, risk factor, surgery, hospitalization. For immobilization, orthopedic cast, economic class syndrome, smoking, obesity, age, certain drugs such as estrogen and erythropoietin, thrombophilia, pregnancy, and postnatal periods are the other causes of this DVT. So diagnosis, Deimers and Doppler ultrasounds are used, and venographies are also used to diagnose this. So treatment, coming to the treatment, prophylaxis treatment is active and passive calf pumps and toe movement. You have to perform active and passively toe movement to avoid this DVTs. Elevation, if you will elevate your leg up to 30 to 45 degree, you will not have accumulation of blood and venous stasis. Deep breathing exercises, elastic head stockings, early internal fixations to provide early mobilities, because if you have a fracture, you should operate patients very early. If you have internal fixations, the patient will become independent and you can move the patient easily. Management, complete rest with elevation. Thrombolysis is necessary, so you can use heparin and other drugs. Anticoagulant therapy, graduated compression stockings, thromboembolic stockings, intermittent pneumatic compression devices. These are the devices which help to build pressure and release pressure intermittently in your leg. It is a type of assisted compressions in your leg to improve blood supply in your leg. Respiratory support in case of pulmonary embolism, if you need oxygen and artificial respiration outside. So coming to the crush syndrome. Crush syndrome is basically occur in earthquake injuries and RTAs. It is a renal failure following extensive crushing injuries of the muscle. So pathogenesis is crushing of the muscles causes the entry of myoglobins, which is a muscle protein, into circulation, and myoglobin precipitates in renal tubules, causing acute tubular necrosis. When myoglobin enters into the renal tubule, it causes a tubular necrosis and metabolic acidosis and hyperkalemia. So due to this, you will have a clinical features: oliguria, apathy, restlessness, delirium, cardiac arrhythmias and heart failures, hypothermia and shock. So it is a very complicated complications which may lead to death. So prophylactic treatment require application of tourniquet and gradual release to slowly allow the myoglobin to reach the kidney. Treatment for acute renal failure. An increased pressure within the enclosed osteofacial space that reduces capillary perfusion below the level necessary for tissue viability, and the underlying mechanism is increased volume within the space, decreased space of the content, and combination of both. So what is compartment syndrome? Your leg, your arm, forearm is divided into different compartments, as you know, that anterior, posterior, lateral and medial compartments. So these compartments are divided by fascias and group of muscles. So what happens? Increased pressure within the enclosed osteofacial space. You after injury or trauma, or after the fracture, you may develop a increased pressure in your anterior compartment, posterior compartment, or any compartment of your extremities. So these increased pressure will lead to start damaging your tissues, and this occurs due to increased volume within the space and decreased space for the content. Means that you have a certain space for certain group of muscle tissues, fascias, all that, if you had an injury and blood leaked inside, so if you are allowing something to enter your space, that will lead to the increased volume in the space and decrease space for the content. And you say, for example, your after the trauma or injury, your that anterior compartment of the forearm starts squeezing out because of the reduced oxygen and blood supply. So it goes either way. If you put something inside or you retrieve something from your compartment, both are the important causes for compartment syndrome. And what happens, what is the pathology and etiology behind this is trauma with bleeding and swelling, bleeding disorders like burns, tight wraps, traction, surgical position, pneumatic entail, shock garments, reperfusion, swelling, casting, and wraps. So this compartment syndrome is very much common in burns, and if you use tight wraps, traction, bleeding disorder, bleeding, internal bleeding occur inside compartment, and casting and wrappings. I'll give you an example. Say for example, you had a fracture and you went to a doctor, and he used POP cast for your he used a conservative management, and he is using POP cast for your Colles fracture, say for example. So what happens, it is very important to secure your fracture with POP cast, but it is important to see whether it is applied properly or not. If it is loose, if your POP cast is loose, your fracture will not heal, your fracture will not stabilize properly. And if it is too tight, it will lead to compartment syndrome, because your tissue and spaces need space to move inside. If you compress any part of your soft tissue, it will damage after 1 or 2 days. So pathophysiology is increased compartment pressure lead to increased venous pressure, which decreases arteriovascular gradient, resulting in the muscle and nerve ischemia. So compartment syndrome main cause is ischemia, which may occur due to the increased pressure inside your compartments. So compartment most common: forearm, leg, other compartment, hand, finger, gluteal, thigh, and foot. These are the common compartment which get involved. Diagnosis, history, clinical examination, CPK and urine myoglobin tests are important for diagnosing this type of compartment syndrome. So coming to the clinical features, you will palpate the pressure, palpation of the compartment and tension or firmness. Pain will be exaggerated in this type of conditions. Earlier symptoms but inconsistent. Anesthesia is peripheral nerve tissue is more sensitive than the muscle to ischemia and will progress to anesthesia. Pressure is not relieved. Paralysis and pallor, pulselessness will be there if you will not resolve this type of problem. So you need to remove the pressure as early as possible, and treatment lower leg to level of the heart, remove cast if it is occurring due to the cast, split all dressing down to skin, fasciotomy if continued clinical findings and a elevated compartment pressure. If you remove cast, and if it is occurring because of the cast, you remove cast. If you have elevated your leg just lower down to your heart level, if you are doing all this thing, after that it is not resolved, So you have to go for the fasciotomy. If it is continued, you have to incise your fascia to remove the pressure. So these are your compartments. You can see that, and these are your incisions which are normally done for fasciotomies. These are the fasciotomies you have done to release the compartment pressures, leg compartments. So this is for just your information.